Okay, today we're going to talk about the fundamental theorem of algebra. Try to show you some relationships here. So check out this function, check out a zero, see if you can find the other zeros of the function. Pause the video, find the zeros, and then come back to us. Okay, so let's find these zeros here. So I'm going to do synthetic division. Okay, this becomes x squared minus 8x plus 16. Factor this out. Becomes x minus 4 and x minus 4. So x minus 4 is equal to 0. X minus 4 equal to 0. X equals 4. X is equal to 4. So what are the zeros? Well, my zeros for this function are negative 3 and 4. So this function only has two distinct solutions, negative 3 and 4, although 4 happens 2 times. Okay, so if I want to write this out in factored form, the equation in factored form, all right, it's going to be f of x equals x plus 3 and x minus 4 times x minus 4. If I want to clean that up a little bit more, it's x plus 3 and x minus 4 to the second power. So here's the fundamental theorem of algebra. It says if a polynomial of degree n, where n is greater than 0, so for example, y equals x to the third, then this equation has at least one solution in the set of complex numbers. Further along it says whatever this degree is, it has exactly that many solutions. So y equals x to the third has how many solutions? 3 solutions. As long as each solution that's repeated twice is counted as 2 solutions and 3 times is counted as 3 solutions, and so on. Alright, so let's take a look at this graph. Alright, here's our equation from earlier. Alright, here is our factored form down here. Here's what it looks like a little cleaned up. Here's the whole graph. Okay, and here's a zoomed in portion from right here. Let's talk about some of the behavior of the graph. Do you see where this happens an even number of times? Then what that does is it is tangent to the x-axis. All right, tangent to the x-axis means that it comes down and it bounces off the x-axis. Maybe we'll call this a bounce. And this one over here, where remember x equals negative 3 was our solution, that's x equals negative 3, this happens one time, happens an odd number of times, okay, then that means that it goes through, it cuts through the x-axis. So we have a bounce. Bounce is when factors happen an even number of times, and this is a cut, which is when factors happen an odd number of times. All right, next problem. Here's our polynomial. There's one of my zeros. See if you can find the other zeros of the function. Pause the video and then come back and see what you have. All right, glad you're back. We're going to do our synthetic division. Remember, you have to put a placeholder. That's your x cubed, that's your x squared, that's your x to the first position, that's your constant. Bring this down. Negative 1 times 1. Negative 4. Negative 1. That's a positive 4. Add these up. Negative 4. 0. If you didn't have that placeholder, this wouldn't work out to be 0. x squared minus 4x plus 4 factor. Solutions. So my solutions are x is equal to -1 and x is equal to 2. X equals 2 happens 2 times. Let's take a look at the graph and what this looks like factored out. Okay, so here's our graph. This happens 2 times. We have a bounce right here, which is what I expect. This is going to be a cut at -1. This scale is that's a -1 here. Okay, if you take a look, that's 1, 2, 3. Okay, each grid is not a 1 on this graph here. Okay, so we got the cut, we got the bounce, exactly what we expected. Let's try our next problem. So there's our polynomial. Here are a couple of zeros. See if you can find all the other zeros of the function. Write the factored form and the simplified form. Hit pause, come back and join us. All right. Second. I'm going to do synthetic. Knock this thing down a little bit. 1 times 3, 3, 0, 1 times 0. 1 times -4. Then I'm going to bring this right on down. See if we knock it down a little bit more with the other number. Now I got this expression here, and I'm going to factor that. So it looks like this happened, not only did it happen up here, but it happened down here. So that's a repeat. The one happened once up here, and the one happened again down here. So let's take a look at the graph and the factored form of that equation. So here's the graph. And what would that factored form of the equation look like? Okay, x minus 1 from here, x minus 2 from here, oh, x minus -2. Okay, caught on that. X plus 2 here, and x minus 1 here. Simplify it up a little bit. X minus 1 to the second power times x plus 2 to the second power. This happened an even number of times at -1, which is really the solution of +1. So that's going to be a bounce. And the same over here. Remember, x is -2. That's -2 right there, and it's also going to be a bounce. All right, let's try our last problem here. Let's try this synthetically. And let's use these zeros. You guys hit pause after you knock this first one down, then come back to us. Okay, so just do this, see what you come up with. So what we expected is 0. Now, this is a bounce. So that happens 2 times at -1. So a little trick you can pick up is I get to use that -1 again. Okay, knock this one down, then come back to us. Now we're going to go try to use the 2. All right, now, this is a cut. So how many times can a bounce happen? 2 times, can happen 4 times, can happen 6. Well, can't happen 6 because we only have 5 solutions, right? Cut can happen an odd number of times. It can happen 1 time, can happen 3 times. So should I try this 2 again? I could try the 2 again, but if I try it twice, then I got to try it 3 times because it has to happen once or 3 times. All right? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this last one here, and we're going to find these solutions. Remember, you can always do synthetic or quadratic equation. I know the solution, so we're going to have to do the quadratic equation. So do me a favor, hit the quadratic equation on this part, and then come back to us. See what you come up with. Skipping a couple steps just to kind of speed it up. Okay. 4 plus or minus 2i root 3 over 2. Remember, this 2 goes into the 4, and the 2 goes into the 2i. So what are our solutions? Negative 1, negative 1, 2, 2 plus I root 3, 2 minus I root 3. So there are our 5 solutions. One thing I want you to notice is that only the real solutions cross the x-axis. Imaginary solutions do not cross the x-axis. Okay? So your imaginary solutions, all right, would not appear on the graph. All right, I hope you found this video informative and useful, and I will see you on the next video.